All right, guys, welcome in. Simone, Eli, and Tobias Wilborn joining you this afternoon, Monday afternoon, with some breaking news from Auburn, as the Tigers are expected to hire Hugh Freeze as the next head coach on the Plains. He will replace Brian Harsin, who was fired last month. Cadillac Williams has been the interim coach, but they are going to go with Hugh Freeze as the new head coach, according to multiple reports. Hugh Freeze expected to sign a 6-year, $6.5 million a year contract. Tobias, I want to get your instant reaction on this, as Freeze is expected to be the new Auburn coach.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of reaction, right? Like, first of all, started hearing on Thursday that if it wasn't Kiffin by a certain time, it was going to be Freeze. Then as Friday built up, I started hearing, hey, we're going to wait until after the Iron Bowl to not be a distraction to what Caddy was doing.
Yeah.
Now, on Iron Bowl day, not news reports, but tweets resurfaced.
Yes.
From a young lady who, okay, look, guys, we got to go through this, and I'm trying to just get through the information, the actual facts.
Sure.
So I have no opinion one way or the other. These are just facts, okay?
Yeah.
All right. So this woman who alleges that she was sexually assaulted by a member of the athletic department at Liberty put out tweets or DMs from Hugh to her, where Hugh was saying that this person was the most Jesus-like leader they'd ever met. Okay. Now, there are states where just that contact alone would be considered as intimidation.
Sure.
Even though you could say that his wording gives a lot of levity, or not levity, excuse me, a lot of gravity, a lot of room there. The fact that he's contacting this woman on that gentleman's behalf, who is alleged something, again, we're using the word alleged here, even though we do believe women, okay? Just putting that out there as well. But, for journalistic purposes, I had to say alleged.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
Okay. And guys, forgive this. We'll get to the fun football stuff, all the things and what he does. But, I mean, this stuff just happened on Saturday.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, Tobias, that this was all a situation at Liberty. And you start to wonder, okay, how much has Hugh Freeze adapted or changed from his time at Ole Miss? Because you go back to the Ole Miss situation, obviously a situation with calls to escort services, in culmination with some situation with recruiting violations. He had to vacate a bunch of wins. So it's not a perfectly clean pass for Hugh Freeze. And if it were, I think we wouldn't have so many comments right now that are really on both sides of this. Some people are saying that they're sick, that they're done being an Auburn fan. Some folks saying, welcome, coach, to the Plains. So really, this is just kind of a polarizing hire for Auburn, Tobias.
Well, I mean, let's just call it what it is. I mean, you have sent a message to a segment of your fan base, and it's not just women, it's anybody who's ever dealt with sexual assault, okay? And sexual assault is a very real thing, and it happens to men as well. Ask about Jerry Sandusky at Penn State, some other stuff. Like, people deal with sexual assault. It is a very serious matter.
Yeah.
It's not something that should be taken lightly. And one of the questions Hugh Freeze will have to answer: hey, man, what were you trying to do when you DM'd that woman?
Yes. Yep.
Like, what were you trying to accomplish?
No question.
Now, however he answers it, and I'm going to assume that Auburn asked him that question. I'm going to assume that John Cohen, the athletic director, who is a man who seems to be a very liberal man, who seems to be very open-minded, I would assume that he asked these questions. I would assume that Dr. Chris Roberts has asked these questions. I would assume that the board of trustees and everyone who has to sign off on that has asked these questions. I'm going to assume that they are satisfied enough with the answer to pay this man nearly $6.2 million a year. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, well, you'd have to think so. And you also would have to assume or hope that Cohen has come in and plans. He wants to gain fans, so to speak, on his side of being new to Auburn, Tobias, and he knows this is a guy who has a colored past. I mean, he was right there at Mississippi State when all of this was going down right down the road, and so this is not something that's a big secret to him, and he probably knows a lot more of the ins and outs of Ole Miss and what happened at Liberty than just your average Joe, even more so than you and I.
Right, absolutely. I mean, look, he's around there. He understands what it is, and I again, this is where it gets difficult, okay? But Auburn has made a decision, all right? And that decision informs you. And I do believe that people have the right to vote with their dollars, to vote with their time and their influence to use their platforms.
Yeah.
That's why we're all here. Everybody has a platform now. Now, I do think some people should probably not use their platform as much as others.
Sure.
I think some people should do more STFUing than others. But nonetheless, there are some people who, I'm just being real. Some people should.
No question. Well, Nabias, let's not. We're gonna take all of what we just discussed and just sit it to the side. We're not dismissing it. We're not going to pretend that it doesn't exist. We're just going to shift our conversation now to the football side of Hugh Freeze and what he has done as a football coach. Again, not discrediting or taking away from very important things that we just discussed, but let's talk about who Hugh Freeze is as a football coach, because he has done some rather impressive things as a football coach. I think that Patrick is behind the scenes. He has some of the numbers there. You see it in 4 seasons at Liberty. The guys rebuilt that program to a 34-15 record at Ole Miss prior to the vacated wins. Did some impressive things as well. So when it comes to football, Nabias, I mean, the guy can coach.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, he has shown, and I tell you, somebody who might be really happy that him is coming, Robbie Ashford. Okay. Because if you look at what he was able to do with Malik,
yeah,
who Auburn fans are also familiar with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you see how that went, okay?
Yeah.
And so maybe Hugh Freeze can unlock something in Robbie Ashford. And there are a lot of people who would want to see if that's possible. And that could be part of this. I mean, because, hey, listen, Robbie Ashford is very especially talented. Mm-hmm. And from what he shared with us about his litany of injuries, I mean, my God, I mean, he's had, fingers and shoulders and elbows. And pretty much, I think he read his whole medical report to us after the game, which, some could see that as making excuses. Mm-hmm. Some could see that as a reason. Mm-hmm. And the line between excuses, reasons is often very thin, if you will, Simone.
Yeah.
But if he's healthy and he's ready and Freeze can get something out of him, then that could make some wins. And if Auburn can win, then I don't know, but I'm saying their thought has to be, hey, man, this man can win football games, and okay, it's going to hurt some people's feelings. It's going to trigger people. Yeah. And I know that word trigger becomes overused. People try to make fun of it or woke or whatever. But there are people who are really hurt by this. Sure. And this is not an act. This is very real. And I hate that we got to go 5 minutes and 40 seconds into this before we get to the very real football part. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We would be, saying, just totally slipping on our duties if we didn't talk about that. No, you're right. Said, listen, the man coached football. Okay, yeah. The man can recruit. And he could probably do pretty well in transfer portal. It's no secret that Auburn is going to need to find at least 2 tackles in that for their offensive line. Yeah. They're going to need to find a replacement for Derek Hall, possibly a replacement for Tank Bigsby, possibly may have to see if they want a quarterback. Well,
here's what I'll say, Nabias, and this comment from Blake is a good part of this. He says he's already out recruiting. I mean, you're already seeing guys making commitments as late as today to Auburn. It's almost like there was something happening behind the scenes, or just some people are aware of what the inevitable future was going to be, and that was that Auburn was going to hire Hugh Freeze. Well, if you're just tuning in,
I started hearing stuff late last night. I got a text from someone I really trust and says, hey, this Hugh Freeze thing is going to happen. Yeah. And this is a person who really has not steered me wrong at this point yet. Okay. And so then I started texting some other people, hey, you think this is happening? And I had a couple people say, no, I don't think they're going to take the risk. And then this morning I wake up and I kept hearing texts, kept hearing. And then all of a sudden, right around the time the sport started, it became a thing. And like I said, we are seeing the mixed reactions, like from Kathy here, saying it hurts her feelings. But they're saying awesome. So, I mean, but the thing is, one person who I talked to, someone who has been around the program for a very long time, a person I really respect, and this is a woman, okay? She said, he can coach. He really can. And without that, I really would have preferred somebody who's going to unite the fan base, like Cadillac Williams. Yeah. Well, Cadillac Williams is uniting the fan base. It did unite the fan base.
He did. And so let's talk about Cadillac and what is the future of Cadillac Williams at Auburn, is he going to, one, be retained? You would think that anybody with half of a brain who comes in and is the head coach at Auburn would want to keep Cadillac Williams for what he has done, what he means to the fan base, to what he means to the players currently on this team that have rallied behind him. But obviously, every coach that comes in has their smorgasbord of doing whatever they want to do, bring in whoever you want to bring. That's just part of college football. Nebias, what have you heard, or what do you think will happen in this situation with Carnell?
Well, I mean, it's going to be interesting because there's two schools of thoughts I've heard. One is if you're going to keep Cadillac, you better be a very secure coach, very secure in yourself.
Yes.
Because you know how the backup quarterback is the most popular guy on the team?
Yes.
Imagine what happens. Auburn gets off to a slow start.
You're right.
You ain't telling me that Cadillac's not going to become the most popular man in East Alabama, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel that.
And can you as a coach, as a man, deal with that kind of ego of your own? Because Cadillac's not going to lie, because he didn't lobby for the job now.
Yeah.
He never lobbied for the job, publicly or privately. I can tell you that. I've had several conversations with the man. He never lobbied for this job.
Correct.
Now, he did tell me, hey, I'm starting to get more comfortable in this. I'm starting to feel as though each day I wake up and do it, I can do the job.
Sure.
So, yeah, could he have been the head coach? Yes.
Yeah.
Do I think he gets retained? At this moment, I do think he'll be retained.
Yeah.
I think Zach Etheridge will be retained. Probably someone like Kendall Simmons, offensive line coach, probably be retained.
Yes.
We'll see what happens with Jeff Smetting and some other guys, but I do think Cadillac will be retained as of now, but it's not official. And so I know right now there's meetings going on over at the facility. I know the staff met around 3:30, and the players have a meeting at 5 where they're going to discuss whether or not they would take a bowl invitation if they were to get it. And from what I'm hearing, that bowl could either be the Birmingham Bowl or the Gasparilla Bowl.
Okay.
So
is that a possibility?
It is, well, because with the whole APR weird thing, and don't get me the line trying to explain how it works, but apparently what I do know is Auburn could still go to a bowl game, and we'll find out on Sunday.
Sure.
And it could either be the Birmingham Bowl, which they were in last year against Houston, or it could be the Gasparilla Bowl in Tampa. Personally, I'd vote for Tampa if I got to go somewhere because I like Tampa. No offense to Birmingham, it's a wonderful place. I mean, obviously.
So if you're just tuning in, we are talking the Hugh Freeze hire expected to happen very soon. That will be the Auburn new head football coach. Reports out there say that it will be 6 years at about $6.5 million a year. The former Ole Miss coach, current Liberty coach, Nebias, he was asked about this game after Liberty took a terrible loss to New Mexico State this weekend. And he straight up said, yes, I've been in conversations with Auburn, more or less said that. And yes, it impacted my team in the pregame, which is kind of unprecedented territory. That's just really not something that you hear from a coach. I mean, to me, it's like he knew he was 1 foot out the door at this point.
Well, I mean, I guess, it's just, this stuff has gotten silly. And I do think that college football is going to have to come up with a little bit more rules as to when coaches can actually talk to teams and when this is a thing. Because some of this just gets ridiculous. And at the end of the day, look, I know people want their team to win. I know people want the coach they want. And my business thrives on, the innuendo, the rumor.
Yes.
But what about the players? Because at the end of the day, they are the one out there, right?
Sure.
And it does impact them.
Yeah.
It impacts your life because you don't know who the next coach is going to be.
You're right.
You don't know if you're going to want to play for him. You don't know if he's going to want you to play for him.
Yeah.
And with this transfer portal, hey, listen, the transfer portal works 2 ways. It's great for players.
Yep.
But you can get stuck in there too.
Mm-hmm. You're right. You're right. And there's one thing about that's different from the Ole Miss Hugh Freeze to this new college age is the NIL. I mean, there is money, but there's money sitting at Auburn that's going to be used for Tiger players, Nebias, and you have to imagine that Hugh Freeze is going to come in and take major advantage of NIL, and that Auburn is going to be able to benefit from that moving forward.
Well, I mean, that's the tough thing about it, right? I mean, look, Hugh Freeze, from what we know, is a good football coach. All right. He's a good recruiter. He's going to have to get in that portal. And for some reason, I don't think the NIL is going to be too much of a problem for old Hugh.
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't think it is.
I don't, that'd be like saying it wouldn't be a problem for Bruce Pearl. I don't think it'd be a problem for either one of them. I don't think either one of them will have any problem seeing those young men get as much money as they can now legally, okay? So that part I don't think is going to be an issue. From what I've been told, again, Auburn has around about $7 million just dedicated to football, which, by the way, is very important as a nation. It's not the whole pot. It's just for that one sport because, Auburn does have other sports.
Yes, certainly does. Well, guys, we are expecting to hear an official announcement from Auburn anytime now. Like Nabai said, there's a 5 o'clock meeting for players to discuss the potential of a bowl game. So Auburn's season might not yet totally be over. But Auburn is expected to announce Hugh Freeze as its next head football coach at 6 years, $6.5 million a year. He will replace Brian Harsin, who was fired after about a year and a half. And obviously everyone knows the history of Brian Harsin. So can Hugh Freeze come in and do what he's done at Liberty, where he really revamped that program, has had a lot of success over the last 4 seasons there. This is a controversial hire for reasons that we talked about off the beginning of this show, for some situations, not only at Liberty, but of course the scandals that happen at Ole Miss. Nabai, the guy has a colored pass. It's no secret. He can coach football, and that's no secret. And so what outweighs what? Apparently Auburn and their higher ups have done their due diligence, and they feel strongly in this hire, and they're going to move forward. And that's where we're at right now. That's the information that we know.
Well, I mean, look, they're the people who have decided this man is the best football coach in mind. Coaches started to jump out the board. Matt Rule, who is rumored as interest, jumped off the board.
You're right.
Lane Kiffin removed himself. They clearly weren't ready to hire Cadillac as the head coach, so that didn't appear to be an option.
Yeah.
They felt this the best option, and whether it works, we will see. Although, if it were me, if I were John Cohen, I would strongly consider taking away Hugh Freeze's Twitter.
That might not be a bad idea. The guy has randomly. The thing is, he's randomly DM'd like a lot of people. It's just a very bizarre thing.
Yeah, and look, and that's just one of them things where, I mean, screenshots live forever, baby.
Yeah.
And again, Auburn has decided they want a head coach, or they're okay with the head coach who has that type of track record.
You're right.
Hey, if it works, God bless him. Good luck to him.
Yeah.
But hey, you have sent the message, and we will see how that plays out in the long run.
Yes, we certainly will, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening. A Monday afternoon with breaking news here that Auburn's expected to announce Hugh Freeze as the next head coach on the Plains. Thank you so much for tuning in. For Nabias Wilborn, I'm Simone Eli. We'll see you back on here